I drink up my whole glass. I drink it so fast that I finish it after only a few seconds, and I have to stop myself from drinking Mum straight away afterwards too. I quickly take a glass into her, and then I come back and pour myself another. Nothing has ever tasted so good, which sounds silly because I never thought water tasted of anything before. The label on the bottle has pictures of mountains on it. They are green, but also have snow on the top. There's a blue sky and sunshine. I like the picture, so I tear it off to put in my book later. That's when I hear Mum get up. "Where'd you get that from?" she's asking me. "I found it outside," I say. She goes to the kitchen and I hear her try to turn on the taps. It's a dry, squeaky sort of sound. "Mum, the taps aren't working anymore. Have some of this water." "Why aren't they working?" "We'd better get them fixed." She yawns loudly and then drinks 2 whole glasses of water without stopping. She doesn't know, I think. I thought that maybe she might have heard some of the news through the walls or looked out of the window, but she can't have. She doesn't know that everything's changed. I suddenly want to ask her if we'll be all right, but instead I tell her that. "We'll be all right, Mum." "We will be, Addie." And she kisses the top of my head. There's a moment as she walks back into her room when she pauses ever so slightly, like she's going to change direction and walk up to the window to see what the world is doing. But she carries on walking and closes the door of her bedroom behind her, and I feel glad that she didn't look. It might be too big a shock to see the outside. There's not much left now. I take another glass of water, luxuriating in its wetness as I swirl the liquid around my mouth. Then I start to ask myself who brought it to our door. Was it the rescue people who had come to get us? But why hadn't they knocked? Why did they leave us only water? I have to go and find them, whoever they are. I leave the flat and walk up the stairs. The lifts aren't working like everything else. I decide I'll walk past every flat from the top to the bottom to find who left us the water. Everyone's door is closed like it always is, so in one way it's the same as any other day when I might go exploring in the tower. The tower's missing all its sounds and smells and seems entirely different. Usually you'll hear kids shouting and mums shouting at them to be quiet, and you'll smell cooking for dinner or who's making a cake. I feel pretty sure that the flats I pass are all empty. There's no sound or smells coming from them, just a stale kind of emptiness. When I've gone down a few floors from my flat, I catch the smell of something which makes me stop. It's a good smell, like meat cooking. I press my ear against the door where I think it's coming from and listen. I can definitely hear someone inside moving things about, but I don't knock. I just stand there and breathe in the smell. It's the most delicious smell, so good that just having it in my nostrils makes me feel like I'm eating it. Maybe it's chicken, just like the chicken and rice Michael's mum made that night. I'm thinking about food so much I don't notice someone come right up behind me, so when he speaks to me it makes me jump. "Are you the kid from 17?" I nodded, thinking that this is the first person other than Mum that I've spoken to in days. "I know him. He's the caretaker for the tower who lives in the basement. He has a gruff sort of voice, and he looks like he's a bit mad, but I know he's not from the next thing he does." "You look like you do something to eat, with something to eat," he says, and then opens the door of the flat and leads me inside. It isn't chicken, but it's a little bit like it. The meat looks a bit darker, but the skin is nice and crispy, and it tastes just fine. I gobble up my plateful and drink down another few cups of water. I'm so busy eating that when I'm finished, do I start to feel a bit comfortable when I'm sitting at a little red and white checked table with 2 people I've only just met. Not many people ask you to come and sit down to eat with them when they don't know you at all. Mum's always told me not to talk to strangers, but I guess this isn't like normal times anymore. These are Blucher times and things are different. There's Dory, whose flat we are sitting in. I've never met her before, but she tells me she's lived in the town for a very long time. She has grey hair that looks like it might be long, but is up at the back of her head. She's wearing 3 cardigans. I noticed them because they're all different colours. One's brown, one's dark red, and one's a sort of yellow. Dory wears a chain around her neck which has a large oval at the end of it. She sees me looking at it and she shows me that you can open it. There are pictures inside. There are little photographs of 3 people, and one of them is a baby, and she tells me that these are her children. I ask her if they live with her here, but she shakes her head and doesn't say anything more for a little while. And then there's Obi. I've seen him around a lot before, fixing things in the tower, but I never knew his name until today. He always looks like he's quite cross, even when we're sitting down to eat the food that Dory made. I've always had the feeling that he doesn't like kids much. I think he must be the one who brought us the water. There is the same sort of bottle in Dory's flat, but Dory is far too small to be able to carry it. Under all her clothes, I don't think she can be much bigger than me. I say to Obi, thank you for the water. But he doesn't answer me back. He just sort of grunts as if to say, that's nothing. Is your mum okay, Addie? Dory asks me. Yes, I say, but she was getting thirsty before the water came. Do you think she would like some lunch too? I don't know what to say then, because I'm sure Mum would like some, but I don't think she'd come down to Dory's flat to eat at the table like I have. So I say I'm not sure. I'll make her a plate up and then you can take it up to her. How about that? That sounds great, I say. I like Dory. Her flat feels safe and somehow it's not too quiet, even with no television on. I think it's because it's full of interesting things. There are lots and lots of books for one thing. Everywhere you look, there's another pile of them. Some of them are stacked so high they look like they might teeter over on top of you. There are books tucked into every little bit of space you can think of. Under the armchair, on top of the kitchen cupboards. I've never seen so many in my whole life. I like the books. We haven't got very many in our house. I have a handful in my bedroom, but they're scrappy and some of them are torn. These books look golden somehow. The pages have yellowed with age, just like Dory herself has wrinkled. They're old friends to her. And then among the books, there are all kinds of bits and pieces. Old seashells, old typewriters, a giant empty white bird cage. There's a little bowl which has strips of white paper inside. Pick a fortune, Dory says. I take one out and it reads, your present question marks are going to succeed. You keep it, says Dory, and I put it carefully in my pocket. I'll stick it in my book later. Here, Addie, for your mum. You'll tell her we say hi, won't you? Dory gives me a plate of steaming food. It smells good. I thank her and I get up to go. Obi opens the door for me. I can't do it because I'm holding the plate. I stop for a moment. I want to come back to Dory's flat later, but I don't know how to ask. I want to see them again soon and not feel lonely in the flat anymore while Mum is sleeping. It's as if they're reading my mind, because Dory says, come back any time, and I certainly want to see you for dinner, young man. And then Obi says, I'll bring you some more water later. And as I carefully walk up the stairs, trying not to spill any of my mum's lunch, I feel happier than I have in a long time.